Hi, another day of exploring the wonders of Superman Family 171, and having finished the main story, slightly over halfway through, turning the page, we get a two-page feature. And I had wondered what on the cover Supergirl presents Superman Family. Kind of, you imagine her being some sort of conductor, or she's sort of ushering you into it in some way, and we haven't had that yet. But here we get floating disembodied head looking at us and telling us things. She's telling us, just as Superman and Batman frequently work together, so have Batgirl and I from time to time formed the Supergirl Batgirl team. So she is telling us stuff in a presenter kind of way, as is Batgirl, who tells us, in fact, this issue's story marks our 4th meeting. So that's kind of cool, but how is this happening? Who are they talking to? How are they talking to us? The people reading the comic who know all their secrets and inner thoughts? What, are we in a different universe from them and they're talking across some kind of universe barrier? Not sure, but what you get in the feature it's like when you have a clip show on the telly, I suppose. You get little callbacks to these other 3 stories where they've met before. One where they are replaced by interdimensional imps of mischief from their 2 sort of franchises, Mr. Mxtplk from Superman and Batmite from Batman. So they replaced them. These were
version of Vegemite.
And it's not the Batman version of Vegemite. It's a very annoying, but super-powered character who comes and causes chaos regularly, comedy chaos, and another character who had to go with Crisis on Infinite Earths. Got rid of all that sort of stuff for a while. Then there's another story where apparently aliens forced Supergirl and Batgirl to fight each other. The superheroes forced to fight each other seems to happen all the time. It happened then, and then we also hear about the time they infiltrated a kind of crime college of hypnotized young women. And
God,
I know,
this is
well,
family reading.
It's called the Supergirl Gang, and that was in June 1969. So a feature of reminding of old things, which is not a great feature really, but it does kind of remind you that all of these stories happened in a continuity, and they're not just random occurrences, that there's some kind of sequence going on. Turning the page, you get comedy cover capers, where here are some old covers featuring Supergirl with new funny balloons. And this would have worked. The fatal flaw is that the balloons aren't funny. In fact, I had to double check. I thought maybe they hadn't actually bothered to put jokes into the balloons. Just one example, there was a Supergirl visiting her own funeral, and she's saying, how can you have my funeral when I'm not dead? And Clark Kent at the front is saying, why wait till the last minute? So it's not rib-ticklingly hilarious, and I think part of the problem is they're already camp, not in the effeminate sense, camp in the kind of exaggerated sense, and you can't layer humour on top of that really. So I think nil points for comedy cover capers. Thought while I'm here I might as well look at any other filler pages there might be. So there's another story, we'll get to that. Advert for giant size comics. Not this kind of giant size. These were big, like Marvel had Treasury editions. DC had these first issue, what do they call them? Famous first editions and limited collector's editions of large size books, which now seem great, including Christmas with the Superheroes, which I think MJ has a copy of. Nice little advert. Super puzzle. Questions actually are quite difficult. Some of them. You know, what the Clark Kent's street number and things like that. Somehow you do something with the numbers and something happens in the puzzle. Another story. And fine. Oh yeah, adverts again for other comics. Stalker, The Man Without a Soul, and Beowulf, Dragon Slayer. So, not without a soul, the man with the stolen soul. Which would be worse, no soul or stolen soul? So these were short-lived sword and sorcery books from what was, I believe, known as the DC Explosion, when they published lots and lots of new ideas, and then they had to rein in and cancel them all. But good thing about the DC universe is the characters are still around and sometimes show up. Well, I know Stalker has over the decades. Yeah, this was interesting. The legal statement of ownership, management, and circulation. Obviously, something they're obliged to put. Lots of small print giving figures, you know, addresses, frequent where it's published from, and the numbers that were printed, which I actually found might seem a little bit esoteric, but as someone who studies the history of magazines, this stuff's gold, really. So what I'm reading from here, it seems they printed about 350,000, but newsagents were returning about 220,000 of them. Well, I don't know how that compares with what normally happens, but it doesn't seem like a runaway success. I mean, I guess if they were taking 3 unpopular comics, combining them into one big, more expensive comic that is mostly reprints and only comes out every 2 months, that doesn't sound like a recipe for success, but it did run all the way until 1982, so what do I know? So there was that, and a letter column, Super Female, this being a Supergirl issue. Yeah, the letter column. There's Supergirl reading the letters, using her X-ray vision to save the trouble of opening the envelopes. And we get a big long letter from a guy called Scott Gibson, reviewing the previous Supergirl issue and praising Elliot S. Maggin's characterization. He has overcome any stiff formalities in characterization, providing us with a keenly carved study in honest dramatization. And then a lengthy, detailed review. So this guy can review stuff I've written anytime. I think he went on to work in the industry. You get Ron Morrison and Sheila Silver from the Roanoke, Vermont Comic Club, saying it's time for Linda stroke Supergirl to have a real love life. This could further humanise her, give her a love affair with someone who genuinely cares for her and the feelings are mutual. And the reply, somewhat cynically, says, one thing you can be sure of with the current 2 new stories per year setup is that Supergirl would be in for a long engagement. So I think how it worked was bi-monthly comics, so there's 6 a year. Through the 3 characters, Supergirl, Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, would alternate, hence each of them are only getting 2 stories a year. So yes, it would be a bit glacial, I suppose, to have sort of propelling your character through lots of major developments, if that's how often they appeared. And then Greg Schrader of Flagstaff, Arizona, thinks he's spotted a major boo-boo. Since when does a lady who is married get called by her maiden name? Well, quite a lot,
when
actually.
they choose to, like me.
Yes, exactly.
Dagnabbit.
So that one gets shot down. Linda was thinking to herself in her mind, her friend will always be Lena Thorall. So, yes, and you get the answers to the quizzes and things that nobody's bothered doing. And the famous adverts all of us grew up with, well, all of us, people who weren't born then didn't grow up with them at all, for things like
People who didn't read them.
Yes, or don't care. Things like X-ray specs and yes, the various muscle development systems and so on. So, and oh yeah,
Two separate gorillas thing again.
no one knows about the two separate gorillas.
I used to be a 5-stone apology. Now I'm 2 separate gorillas.
Okay, so if anybody heard that, if you know what it is without Googling, put it in the comments and you will win a fabulous prize. Talking of fabulous things, last of the adverts, which had a beautiful drawing of a Civil War battle, 204 Revolutionary War soldiers. I'm reading this backwards. It looks like it says raw soldiers. Apparently these were terrible. They're just like little plastic figures that are almost two-dimensional. But the adverts ran for years and years. Okay, enough of that. That's all the filler items. Next time, back to the stories. Thanks for watching. See you in a bit. Bye.